A lot of what I learned in water in the West now is expanded out into a larger project I call the Global Water Project. And I think these issues are very much the same. Western water is not isolated. So in 1999, I went with my brother-in-law to Vietnam. He was a pilot in the war, and I was a student at the time protesting against the war. So we had a very interesting journey together, and he went back to the sites he had been stationed at in Vietnam. And one place was Cam Ranh Bay, which is now a shrimp farm. The whole edge of it used to be a mangrove swamp, and now much of that's been taken out. And so a lot of the shrimp we enjoy here in California comes from Vietnam, and it comes from the deforestation of the mangrove swamps. If you heard this, remember the story or the lesson of Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, it's not a good thing to do. It's not good to deforest the coastal swamplands because that winds up protecting much of the people living inland. 2007, I was asked to photograph a group of Mayan people in the highlands of Guatemala who 30 years earlier had been, some of them had been massacred by the government when they resisted the building of a big dam project called the Chicxulub Dam. These are the people that survived. And what happened, their stories were astonishing and very tough, very difficult. We went to where these people have been trying to rebuild their culture and trying to reestablish their cultural identity. And it's very tough to see how difficult that is. This is the dam, the Chicxulub Dam, that caused the project, caused the problems. But some of the native people are actually going back and re-inhabiting the village where the massacre occurred. 444 people were killed, but yet nowadays people really want to re-establish, re-inhabit that site. This was a shaman who did an all-night ceremony, which for us, and recited the names of all the people from memory that had been killed. I looked also at other Latin American culture, parts of Latin America that dealt with water. The Iguazu Dam, or Iguazu River is a huge one of the largest waterfalls in the world. The favelas of Rio, another incredible issue if you start to think about just simply the water itself and what that means. But I was talking earlier today with a previous speaker about some work I've been doing right on the Mexican-American border where the Colorado River flows from the United States into Mexico. And once it gets into Mexico, a lot of the water is used by agriculture, most of it. And there's very little that actually goes down into the Sea of Cortez. So I met a man who has been working, a Yaqui Indian, who's taken the agricultural wastewater that is the only water that's left and has been diverting some of that into restoring a marshland. So one morning he took us out in a canoe at sunrise, and I photographed this, which was, it was breathtaking to see the bird life coming back, and he's trying to set up a responsible ecotourism industry, which is what we had heard was maybe one way that some of these tribal people can survive. I also worked in Iceland, photographing water issues there. This is actually where the capital of Iceland gets its power. Is actually all geothermal. It looks pretty bad in this picture, but it's actually a pretty good thing because it's all from geothermal renewable resources. We lied. We told this site where they're building this huge dam that we were photographers for the National Geographic, and they let us in and they gave us a tour around this huge dam site in central Iceland, which wound up entirely being built to power an aluminum smelter in eastern Iceland. So it's all, none of this is going to the grid. None of this is going to benefit people in Iceland. It's all for Alcoa aluminum to make tin cans. So there's a lot of protest. It's a very interesting time now in Iceland with the economy, but it's interesting to see where Iceland will go in their future. How are they going to survive, and are they going to wind up, which direction will they go in terms of their environment? This is called the outermost house, the northernmost house on the edge of the Arctic Circle in Iceland. And then finally, 2001, the man on the left, Jacques Leslie, asked me to travel with him to India to interview the woman on the right named Medha Patkar. She's an activist that has been trying to get the World Bank to stop building this huge dam right on the Narmada River in western India, and she succeeded. It's an astonishing story, which we don't have time to tell here, but she was actually successful in getting the World Bank to stop funding this dam. But then the Indian government decided to finish it, so she essentially lost the battle. She was trying to drown herself at around this time when we were visiting with the rising waters of the Narmada River. This village where I photographed is now completely underwater. When she would do a hunger fast or try to drown herself, the Indian Army would come in and snatch her and throw her in jail because it would be bad publicity if she died. But she is a person I've never met anybody quite as committed to a cause as she was. It was like being around Gandhi. I mean, this was an incredible battle, which we hadn't heard of much in this country, but is very well known in India. And the Narmada is considered a sacred river in India. People actually walk the full length, pilgrims walk up and down the full length of the Narmada, as you see here. This is the meeting tree where people used to meet and now is being flooded out. This area is now underwater. And it was an important part of my education and actually one of the motivating reasons for getting started on this. A lot of the people from the traditional farming communities then wind up being displaced. Many of them wind up like these people living underneath a water pipe in Bombay, illegally tapping the water from the pipe. I spent about half a day with these people wandering around. They were very generous to show me where they lived, and I offered to pay them a little bit of money at the end of the day, and they refused and actually wanted to pay me, which was astonishing considering they had nothing. So oftentimes people with the least are the most generous. So anyway, we can talk more after we have the question and answer, but